Chris might just be the worst boyfriend alive. He's at dinner with his friends, finally deciding he's going to break up with his girlfriend Dani. The relationship feels draining, and his friends push him to end it that night. Then his phone rings. It's Dani, screaming. Her sister has filled their parents' house with carbon monoxide. Her entire family is dead. In a single night, Dani loses everyone. Everyone except Chris, and she has no idea he was about to leave her. Months later, Dani is barely holding herself together. She's grieving, fragile, and emotionally dependent on the only person she has left. Meanwhile, Chris is planning a trip to Sweden with his friends. Josh is studying a remote midsummer festival for his thesis, and the others are going for fun. When Dani finds out, she invites herself. The friends clearly aren't happy, but no one stops her. In Sweden, Pelle explains that the festival takes place in the secluded community where he grew up, a place that has preserved its secret traditions for generations. Dani is fascinated until the topic of family comes up. The grief hits her all over again, and she walks away, overwhelmed. She's traumatized, suppressing unbearable pain, and now she's in a foreign country surrounded by people who don't truly want her there. It's the worst possible environment for someone in her mental state. Chris knows breaking up with her after the tragedy would make him look heartless. But dragging her to Sweden and pretending everything is fine isn't kindness. It's cowardice. The healthier choice would have been helping her seek real support and stability before slowly stepping away from the relationship. Instead, he avoids the hard conversation, and that decision is about to backfire in ways none of them expect. When they land in Sweden, the adventure truly begins. The group rents a car and drives 4 long hours into the countryside, leaving highways, towns, and cell signals behind. Civilization slowly disappears in the rearview mirror. By the time they reach their first stop, they're deep in isolation. Pelle excitedly introduces them to his brother, Ingemar, who has also brought friends from London. The welcome is unusual but warm. Ingemar offers everyone a bag of psychedelic mushrooms as a kind of ceremonial greeting. The others eagerly accept. Dani doesn't. She hesitates, clearly uncomfortable. Chris stays back with her at first, but when the group seems awkwardly offended, she gives in. The mushrooms are brewed into a tea, and they all sit together, waiting for the effects to take hold. It doesn't take long. The world begins to shift. Colors breathe. The ground pulses. Dani feels reality slipping at the edges. Then someone casually mentions family, and that single word hits her like a knife. Her trauma surges to the surface. She tries to hold it together, but panic rises fast. She retreats into a nearby building, staring at herself in the mirror, only to see the horrifying image of her dead sister reflected back at her. She bolts into the forest, stumbling blindly through the trees until everything goes dark. When she wakes up, she's on the ground, biting Chris's hand as he tries to calm her. He tells her she's been unconscious for 6 hours. The group continues deeper into the countryside until they finally arrive at Pelle's village. They enter through a massive wooden archway, stepping into a serene, sunlit community that feels almost frozen in time. The villagers greet them with gentle smiles and open arms, and they give Dani special attention. The Midsummer festival begins in a burst of color and movement. The villagers dance in wide circles under the endless daylight, laughing, singing, celebrating as if the world beyond the fields doesn't exist. At first, the group watches from the sidelines, amused. Then one of the village girls playfully kicks Chris during the dance and flashes him a mischievous smile. That's all the invitation he needs. He grins, jumps up, and joins the circle, leaving Dani standing there alone. Pelle notices. While the others are distracted, he approaches Dani gently and hands her something carefully folded. A portrait he drew of her for her birthday. Chris hadn't even remembered. Dani is touched. The drawing is incredibly detailed, carefully shaded, precise, intimate. It doesn't look rushed or spontaneous. In fact, it couldn't have been. They've only just arrived, and there's no way he sketched something that intricate sitting casually on a blanket. This was planned. Pelle tells her to keep it a secret. At the bottom of the portrait are 2 runic symbols. Dani doesn't recognize them, but if she had asked, she would have learned they represent journey and rebirth. That sounds beautiful, until you notice something unsettling. Elsewhere in the compound, there's a disturbing tapestry displaying those same symbols, woven into a bizarre story about a girl who uses ritualistic love magic to bind someone to her. And on Dani's portrait, the runes are inverted. Historically, inverted runes carry darker meanings. So instead of journey to rebirth, the message becomes something far more ominous. Something like a bad journey into rebirth. Not exactly a comforting birthday gift. If Dani had looked closer, she might have realized Pella's kindness carries layers beneath the surface. His attention isn't accidental, and it might not be innocent. That night, they're shown to the communal dormitories. As they settle in, Pelle explains how his people see life as divided into seasons: childhood, adulthood, maturity, and elderhood. No one in the village is older than 72. When someone asks why, Pelle calmly explains that at that age, their lives come to a natural end. They are executed. He shrugs as if it's the most ordinary thing in the world. The group laughs nervously, assuming it's just another strange cultural joke. But soon, they're going to learn that he wasn't joking at all. The next morning, the villagers gather for a ritual called the Ettestupa. The outsiders have no idea what that means. The atmosphere is strangely peaceful, as two elderly members of the community are escorted to the top of a towering cliff. Before stepping forward, they slice their palms and press their blood onto a rune stone carved with the symbol of a journey. Dani looks up. She sees the old woman approach the edge, and in that split second, she understands. The woman leaps. The sound of her body hitting the rock below is sickening. The impact crushes her face instantly. The group stands frozen in horror. Dani can barely process what she's seeing. The London tourists start panicking, but the villagers? They remain calm, steady, almost serene. Then the old man steps forward. He jumps. The fall shatters his legs, but he doesn't die. He lies there, writhing in agony. And suddenly the villagers begin to wail, crying out together in a shared, haunting chorus. A small group approaches him carrying a massive wooden mallet. Without hesitation, they crush his skull. The crying stops. Silence settles over the field. This isn't symbolic. This isn't theatrical. It's real. Up until now, the strange clothes, the odd customs, the smiling faces, it could all be dismissed as eccentric tradition. But this is something else entirely. If a community can watch two elders throw themselves off a cliff without flinching, if they can calmly finish the job when necessary, then the line between culture and something far darker has already been crossed. And the most terrifying thought isn't what just happened. It's what might be coming next. Sickened by what they've witnessed, the British tourists decide they've had enough. They start packing, ready to leave this nightmare behind. But before they can go, a village leader gently stops them. She speaks calmly, almost tenderly, explaining that the ceremony was an honor. The elders chose their deaths. It was not cruelty, she insists. It was tradition. A sacred passage, a willing sacrifice. The tone is so composed, so reasonable, that it almost makes the horror feel negotiable. Reluctantly, everyone walks back to the village. But Dani is unraveling. She has spent months trying not to think about death, burying the trauma of losing her family. And now she's been forced to watch it happen in front of her. Violent, deliberate, unavoidable. The walls she built inside herself are beginning to crack. Chris, on the other hand, reacts very differently. Back in the dormitory, he's energized, inspired. He tells Josh he's decided to change his thesis topic. Instead of writing about something original, he now wants to study this community, their rituals, their beliefs, their purity. Josh is furious. This was his research, his work, but Chris brushes it off, too captivated by what he's seen to care about stepping on his friend's toes. While Dani is breaking down, he's chasing opportunity. Later that day, Pelle returns to the dormitory and finds Dani quietly packing her things. She can't stay. What she saw was too much. She wants to leave. Pelle doesn't argue. Instead, he sits with her. Softly, he tells her he understands loss. He explains that he lost his own parents when he was young. The village took him in, gave him love, gave him belonging. They became my family, he says. And then he looks at her in a way that feels deeply intentional. He wants her to feel like she has a family too. On the surface, it sounds compassionate, supportive, exactly what a grieving person needs to hear. But there's a pattern forming. Pelle consistently singles her out, makes her feel seen, makes her feel chosen. In moments when she feels most alone, he steps in with warmth and reassurance. He subtly reinforces the idea that outside this place, she has nothing. And inside it, she could have everything. That's how cults operate. They isolate you from your pain, then offer themselves as the cure. They replace your identity with belonging. They convince you that the world beyond their circle is cold and uncaring, while they are love, safety, and home. Dani is vulnerable, grieving, searching for something to hold on to, and this village is giving her exactly what she's missing. That's not kindness, that's recruitment. When the British tourists tried to leave, something didn't sit right. The village leader had interrupted a sacred ceremony just to persuade them to stay. And even stranger, they were never warned in advance about the cliff ritual. No preparation, no explanation. That wasn't transparency, that was entrapment. That night, while everyone sleeps in the shared dormitory, a young village girl quietly rises. She creeps across the room and slips a small rune beneath Chris's bed. Josh sees it. The next morning, he shows the symbol to his friend. It's tied to love magic. Soon after, Pelle casually mentions that a village girl has taken an interest in Chris. She's finally of age for breeding in Harga society. Chris looks surprised, then intrigued, which is insane. This isn't flirting at a bar. This is a closed, ritualistic community that just threw two elders off a cliff. Getting romantically involved, especially with a girl whose age is defined by their own ancient standards, is a disaster waiting to happen. And this is a culture that does everything collectively. There is no privacy here, no boundaries. Meanwhile, Connie, the remaining British tourist, is packing to leave. A villager tells her boyfriend has already gone ahead and that a car will return for her. She doesn't believe it and storms off alone. That's the last time she's ever seen. Dani tells Chris that people are disappearing. He barely reacts. Instead, he asks one of the elders whether such a small community struggles with inbreeding. The elder calmly explains that they occasionally invite outsiders to mate with them. Now the pieces start to click. If this village needs outside genetics, then keeping outsiders here isn't hospitality, it's necessity. And if anyone leaves, they risk exposing everything: the rituals, the deaths, the breeding practices. The fact that no one has ever reported this place suggests something chilling. People who come here don't go home. Josh, obsessed with his research, learns that their sacred texts are painted by an inbred oracle and interpreted by village elders. Photography is strictly forbidden, so of course he decides to sneak in that night to take pictures. Elsewhere, Mark makes a fatal mistake. He urinates on an ancestral tree, something deeply sacred to the villagers. He laughs it off, but one of the men doesn't, and he doesn't forget. At lunch the next day, Dani realizes both British tourists are gone. The villagers casually claim they've been taken to the station. Chris, meanwhile, finds a single pubic hair baked into his food. He doesn't understand, but he's just been chosen. Mark is suddenly lured away by a smiling village girl. After insulting their sacred tree, there's no way this invitation is innocent. He disappears. Then that night, Josh sneaks into the temple and photographs the holy book. As he finishes, he senses someone behind him. He turns. A shadow stands in the doorway, and before he can react, he's struck in the head. The figure steps forward, and we realize something horrifying. Mark is dead, and someone is wearing his flayed face like a mask. The next morning, even more friends are missing. The villagers announce that their sacred book has been stolen. Chris quickly assures them they had nothing to do with it. But by now, the truth is undeniable. This village isn't preserving tradition, it's harvesting outsiders. And the celebration isn't the beginning of something beautiful. It's the final act of something far darker. At this point, the pattern is undeniable. 4 people have vanished. No convincing explanations, no proof they ever left. And if anyone was essential to this trip, it was Josh. The entire journey was built around his thesis research. If even he can disappear without consequence, then this isn't coincidence. It's execution. Mark was lured away and skinned, his face worn as a mask. Connie is gone. Her boyfriend is gone. Josh is gone. If they searched the compound thoroughly, every barn, every shed, every locked building, they would discover horrors beyond imagination. Mark's mutilated body, the British tourist tortured in the chicken coop, Josh posed grotesquely like a garden ornament. The signs were always there. A bear locked in a cage for no reason, murals of bears burning alive, paintings of ritual sacrifice and blood offerings. The warnings weren't subtle, they were everywhere. And now the trap is closing. Dani has entered into the May Queen competition alongside the village girls. As they form a circle around the maypole, she looks down at her feet and realizes she's been drugged again. The dancing begins. At first it's chaotic, then hypnotic. The circle spins faster and faster. One by one, girls collapse from exhaustion. Dani, for the first time since her family died, feels something other than grief. She feels light. She feels free. When the final girl falls, the village erupts in celebration. Dani is crowned May Queen. She's lifted onto a platform carried like royalty to a long banquet table. She sits at the head. Chris sits far below her, and the drugs are beginning to dismantle him. He's offered a drink to break down his defenses. He hesitates, then sees Maya watching him. He drinks it and seals his fate. Dani is told she must bless the crops alone. She's placed in a carriage and taken away from the village, separated from Chris at the worst possible moment. The symbolism is clear. She is rising in power as he loses all control. While Dani is gone, a path of flower petals is laid before Chris. He follows it, dazed, into a room filled with naked women chanting in unison. Maya lies waiting for him. Too drugged to resist, too disoriented to think clearly, he gives in. When Dani returns, she hears strange sounds from a building nearby. The villagers urge her not to look. She looks anyway. Through a keyhole, she sees everything. Her last emotional anchor shatters. She collapses outside, sobbing violently as the village women surround her, not to silence her, but to mirror her pain. They scream and cry with her, absorbing her grief into their collective body. For the first time, she isn't alone in her suffering. And that's what breaks her. Chris finally snaps back to clarity and realizes what he's done. Panicked, he runs through the village searching for help, only to find one of his friend's legs sticking out of freshly turned soil. He stumbles into a chicken coop. Inside, he finds the mutilated body of the British tourist, displayed in a ritual known as the Blood Eagle, lungs still grotesquely moving. Before he can react, powder is blown into his face. He collapses. When he wakes, he's paralyzed. Unable to speak, unable to move. The elders announce the final ceremony, 9 sacrifices, 4 villagers, 4 outsiders, and one final choice to be made by the May Queen, Dani. She is presented with 2 options, a willing villager or Chris, the boy who forgot her birthday, who almost left her, who betrayed her, who chose curiosity and ego over her pain. After everything she's lost, everything she's endured, she chooses Chris. The bodies are arranged inside the temple. In another building, Chris is sewn inside the hollowed corpse of a bear, echoing the murals they ignored upon arrival. He's placed among the sacrifices. The temple doors close, the fire begins. Screams erupt from inside as the building burns. Outside, the villagers wail in ritualistic unity, sharing the pain as one body. And Dani stands there watching. At first, her face trembles with confusion, grief, disbelief. Then slowly, she smiles. Because in this place, her pain is understood, shared, validated. Her old world is gone, and the only family she has left is standing right beside her in the flames' glow. Thanks for watching, and subscribe for more recaps.